The journey of awakening is not so much the climbing of a ladder as it is the releasing of the sandbags of a hot air balloon that is already primed and ready to rise.
What advice would you have for someone who's kind of going through a maelstrom of emotions?
The greatest gift we can give ourselves is the gift of being more emotionally present, the opportunity to feel any emotion. If life orchestrates for you an encounter or an experience in which anger rises within you, honor it. All emotions are pure and healthy. Life, as we experience it, is constantly orchestrating for us the perfect experiences that are intended to propel us on our journey of awakening. Deep knowledge is always emotional knowledge, and emotional knowledge can only happen when we have had experiences that enrich us with that emotion. And so to know ourselves enables us to discover or to choose. It's not even a discovery. We then, based on knowing ourselves, based on being who we are, who we truly, truly, truly are. And part of being who we are is uncovering who we are. And so it's from that beingness that we get to choose what we wish to do, but we're choosing from the beingness.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Dreamcatcher podcast, a place where your dreams can find a voice. I'm your host, Celine Chenoy. Thank you to all of you who return every week to tune in to become a better version of yourself. Make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already, and rate our show if you enjoy this episode. Many of us look for answers outside of ourselves. We consult experts, read books, and listen to podcasts to expand our understanding. Although these resources can aid our decision-making, the real answers we seek are found within us. My guest, Shams-Tabriz, believes that as multidimensional beings, we possess the inner wisdom necessary to tap into our potential and craft a life that fulfills us and makes an impact. He's here to illuminate this path of self-discovery. Sham-Tabriz is a mentor, teacher, and spiritual intuitive with a unique ability to guide individuals toward healing, empowerment, and fulfilling their highest purpose. As the author of several books, including Awaken To Brilliance, he's shared his divine guidance and mentorship with audiences worldwide, helping them transcend limiting beliefs and awaken to their fullest potential. Through his appearances, Shams delivers profound messages rooted in spiritual wisdom, healing, and the empowerment of the human spirit. Join us for an enlightening discussion with Shams-Tabriz, who will reveal how we can master the art of channeling to tap into our inner wisdom and unleash our creative potential. He'll guide us in cultivating a sense of self and tranquility, helping us draw in opportunities that enrich our journey of self-discovery. Hello, Shams-Tabriz. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, Celine. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Oh, yeah, it's wonderful to have you on the show. How is life out there in beautiful Bali?
Life is amazing. I don't think I could have imagined life could be this joyful. Not that life isn't joyful wherever one may be, but there's a certain element to Bali. There's a certain energy here in Bali, and it's embedded in the people. It's embedded in the land. It's very much in the culture that is very difficult to describe for those who haven't visited here. And so despite the fact that we're in the middle of rainy season, and that's just a side note to comment on where we are in this particular moment of experiencing Bali, Bali life in general is a blessing. It's an absolute blessing.
I will have to agree with you because I have visited Bali twice. And
Mm.
both times were absolutely magical. The second
Yeah.
time what I visited was for a Tony Robbins retreat, and it
Okay.
was unbelievable. It wasn't in Ubud. I believe it was in the north of Bali. The
Okay.
and I just remember just being enveloped by this beautiful, magical energy, and the people are so hospitable and lovely, and overall, it was just unbelievable. And as you said, the energy there is really high, and I could really feel it. It was very palpable. So I'll have to agree with you. Okay, so
True.
Shams-Tabriz, it's lovely to have you on the show. I'm really looking forward to discussing several topics related to consciousness and exploring different methods for connecting with our higher selves. I know that this has been a major focus in your life because you've embarked on what you call an incredible adventure of self-discovery that has deepened your connection to your own divinity. So I'd love to kick off our conversation by you sharing a pivotal experience that has shaped your perspective and how you see yourself.
Mm. It, it's a tough question because there are a few that do come to mind, but there's one in particular that does really stand out. And it was an experience I had when um, I was approximately 7 years old, and it's recorded in me. It's imprinted in my memory as clear as us having this conversation in this moment. It's that accessible. But it was a dream. It's a dream I had as a child in which I knew myself to be an older man, a wise man. I just had this knowing of expandedness within me. And I was being walked through what I would describe today as a sparse forest. There were many trees, um, but it wasn't dense. And there were three men behind me who were I was leading them, but in a sense I was being led. And I could certainly see the the scenery around me. So there must have been a moon out that was lighting our way. And suddenly we came upon a particular tree, and I turned. And in that moment of turning, the men thrust knives into my and the experience was I think the way that I had recorded it. The beautiful thing is my mother was a very wise and also spiritual woman, and so she had an understanding of what this kind of an experience was. It was much more than a dream. And so she had me record this, and I've still got that chicken scratch somewhere sitting probably in my sister's garage in Canada. Um, but on I recorded it in my child's mind what the experience was. But one knife was thrust into my stomach, another knife was thrust into my chest, another into my throat, and the final one into my head. And as this was happening, in that very moment, I experienced myself swirling like a very powerful vortex. Imagine a tornado that has its sharpest point on the bottom. And I was swept up in that force that was beyond me, but it was me. And suddenly I was lifted, and there were lights. It wasn't color. Sorry, it wasn't sound, but it was lights, remarkable lights that culminated into a vast explosion into what I would describe as just pure white light. That was the visual experience. The visceral experience, the emotional experience was one of knowing myself in that moment. I knew that the man that I was had ceased to exist. I knew that I had left my body, and I knew that who I was existed beyond the body. And in that movement upward, and that is how I experienced it, as an upward vertical movement. In that movement, I came to know myself as everything, as all consciousness, as all vibration, as everything. Um, and I have a knowing that in that lifetime, I was wise, I was expanded in my consciousness. And I would have to say that that framed me from a very early age. It's not that I was enlightened as a child, by no means. I don't even refer to myself as enlightened today. Would I consider myself to be wise? Yes. Do I have profound experiences? Absolutely. Am I enlightened? No. As a child, nor was I. But that experience gave me a sense of self that transcended whatever conditioning I was experiencing as a child informed me. It just transcended it. And so from that point forward, if not also before then, I just had a certain fearlessness around life. I didn't fear life. I didn't fear uh, the traditional religious societal mores that we tend to follow and uphold as just an extension of how we've been brought into this world. And they never defined me or limited me. I was always able to see beyond that and free myself to explore. And I think ultimately that's what led to me being able to the deeper spiritual journey that began in my early 20s.
Wow. I'm curious, how were you able to get over the morbid part of that vision that you saw? I mean, as a child, that might have been hard. How could you interpret that in a way that empowered you as it does today?
It wasn't a thought, it was an experience. And in the experience, even as a child, I knew that I was that man. And so I did the way that it's written in that sheet of paper that I recorded as a child. It's written that I dreamt I was a man, and this is what happened to me. The greater awareness of me today can say with abundant clarity, I was experiencing an aspect of me that had existence in another time, what we often refer to as past lives. And so I accessed who I once was and experienced that moment of my transition, that moment of me passing away, releasing the physical form and re-embracing my true nature. And so from the perspective of the child, the experience was just, it was real. And the freedom that I had to accept that reality was, I think, framed by me describing it as a dream. So I didn't need to make it any more real than that. But it was. It just was. Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does. And did it point you in the direction of your purpose? Did it help you make more conscious choices after that into teenagehood and early adulthood and later on?
Absolutely not. It was a
That's what
memory. Yeah,
I had a gut feeling that that was the
it,
case.
it
Yeah.
didn't, but it was
Yeah.
somehow something that was embedded in my consciousness as a child that then stayed with me and surfaced much later as a realization, almost the realization that, oh my goodness, I have had experiences that have revealed who I am to myself, and that I am not distant from knowing what we often perceive to be that which is the higher self, or that which is concealed from us because of our existence in this realm of contrast. And so this was one of, I would say, the most significant early experiences that I had in life that introduced me to a sense of self that was transcendent. And so while it didn't have necessarily a strong role in informing the experiences that I then had in life and the choices that I then made when I pursued my spiritual journey, that actually happened. That's another story altogether. That happened when I was in my early 20s. And there was the death, a sudden tragic death of somebody who was close to me that set me off on a series of inquiries to which I was not satisfied with the answers that I received, which then led me on a whole quest to really understand the nature of God, the purpose of life, the understanding of what happens to us beyond death. And it was in that journey that I began to reflect upon this childhood experience that I'd had.
Interesting. And would you call this journey you've been through, would you call it, would you liken it to the journey of awakening? Because I heard you mention this in one of your videos that every person experiences awakening in various stages. So I'd love for you to tell us more about awakening and that whole process, what it looks like.
So, awakening is my way of awakening to brilliance, is my way of describing the journey that we are all on to truly know ourselves. And the journey of coming to know ourselves in our humanity, in our existence as human beings upon this realm, is a journey of embodying the full consciousness, the full light that we are. And so the journey of awakening is not so much the climbing of a ladder as it is the releasing of the sandbags of a hot air balloon that is already primed and ready to rise. And so if we were to perceive ourselves, especially in this time, if we were to perceive ourselves as having within us all of the necessary wisdom and understanding that comprises the gamut, the full gamut of human experience, if we can take the leap of faith to presume that there is nothing more within the human condition of contrast that we have not to this point experienced, then the journey of awakening is one of examining all of the shadows that remain within us, unresolved from times past, that define us in a limited way. And as we shine a light upon these, that process of healing ourselves, of resolving those wounds that define us, that limit us, that create patterns and beliefs that distort our perception of self as well as life at large, the more we shine a light upon these things, then all that is happening really is that we are integrating the wisdom that exists already within us. And that leads to an awakening. We are awakening to the brilliance that already exists, that we have dimmed ourselves from. And as that happens, as each one of these shadows within, each one of these wounds or beliefs or patterns that exist in distortion, that do not truly define the magnificence that we are, the true divine heritage that we have inherited by virtue of our birthright. As these are all released, this is like the disentangling of the sandbags that hold a hot air balloon tethered to the earth. And as these are let go, then there is no effort required in ascending. And I use that word intentionally because a lot of people refer to ascension as a spiritual goal. There's no effort required in ascending. Ascension, awakening, happens quite effortlessly, naturally. That is not our task. Our task, from the human perspective, is the disentangling.
That's beautiful. How do we begin that process of disentangling?
This is the healing journey that is very central to the work that I do. And all of my work is informed by several decades worth of relationship with this consciousness that I have formed a personal connection with. And this consciousness is not unique to me. It does not exclusively have a relationship with me. This is the consciousness of the highest echelons of heavenly consciousness. And so this is who we all are. If we were to perceive ourselves as a massive crystalline pyramid containing many blocks within it, all of those blocks represent different lifetimes and different aspects of our whole. And at the very top of that crystalline pyramid is the capstone, which is pure light. That is the point at which we merge with source and allness. And so that is the connection that I have been able to form that enables me to draw down wisdom and guidance and information that has in the past informed not only my own healing journey, but has enabled me to support so many others in their healing journey.
You describe yourself as a spiritual intuitive, right? You can connect with a specific type of consciousness called Urshia, or the Divine Feminine Collective. Is that what you're alluding to right now?
That is it. Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us more about that. How does that work? Because you essentially channel wisdom from these higher echelons of consciousness.
Correct. Let's dispel the myth or the mystique around channeling. We're all virtue of our ability to animate our life force in the human realm. We're channeling our life force. These physical bodies that we perceive ourselves to be, this is the Earth spacesuit. This is what enables our light to have an experience here on Earth. And so this is the spacesuit. And the idea is that the soul exists within the spacesuit. The greater truth is that our energy is massive. And at times, from a physical perspective, can be perceived to be condensed and very close to the Earth's spacesuit, but has the capacity in an expanded state to extend to the furthest reaches of the universe. And so who we are is that consciousness. Who we perceive ourselves to be is often defined by the shadows of old or the beliefs that we have adopted as a result of the human condition. And so if we can understand that fundamentally that is what channeling is accessing consciousness and enabling that consciousness to manifest in the physical. And so you in this moment, Celine, you are channeling the consciousness that defines you. And there are moments in which your consciousness will expand, sometimes through practices that you may perform, sometimes just in a moment of pure bliss or pure joy or pure love, pure magic. That is your expandedness. In times of fear or deep sadness, that consciousness can contract and you can shrink yourself down. But in all moments, in order for you to even have existence in this realm, you're channeling your life force. Channeling in the way that I practice it with my work and with my spiritual practice is to connect to the frequencies of divine consciousness. Now, this is not something that you can simply intend to do and then master. This took me from the moment that I encountered channeling in its purest form and almost immediately hungered to be able to do the same. It was 10 years of painstaking effort, a healing journey, as well as learning what it was to channel and learning what it was to distinguish between the different manifestations of consciousness beyond the physical. It took me a long time to learn to navigate that invisible field before I finally was able to form that connection. And even today, if you were to ask me 20 years later, after having actually begun channeling, how I channel today is vastly different from how I channeled 20 years ago. And so channeling is literally me being able to set aside my limited consciousness and enable a higher frequency, a higher energy, a higher consciousness to flow through this instrumentation. And as a channel, I could very easily define myself as a radio. And this might be an older metaphor, but I think it still applies for people who can understand what a radio once was. Today we have vastly different technology, but a radio fundamentally is a receiver and a transmitter. And so my body then becomes a receiver and a transmitter for those signals. And always interpreting it, of course, through my language, through my understanding, through my mindset. But the purest form of channeling is where even that is able to relax to a point of just allowing a pure transmission to be conveyed.
Yeah, I've often heard a lot of artists having the ability to channel creative inspiration, that they just suddenly get this spark of inspiration from nowhere. And is that a manifestation of their ability to channel?
Absolutely. Love, even the expression of love, is also channeling. You are channeling an emotion that is so pure and so potent that exists beyond the physical realms. So yes, artistry, poetry, music, even those people who are innovators, and we see so many innovations happening around the world in our time today. It's been a massive acceleration of the development of humanity. But even that which we perceive to be intellectual pursuits are being fueled by this same connection to just pure consciousness. And so many people are engaged in this without even realizing what they have the capacity to tap into. And it's often very rewarding and enjoyable for me to work with individuals like that who have this natural gift and don't even realize what they are tapping into. And when I get the opportunity to help them open that channel even more, because they've already quite naturally formed a very fluid connection in terms of allowing their inspiration to flow or their creativity to flow or their in whatever form that manifests. Once they learn how to discern their connection and connect ever higher and ever finer, it just emerges so effortlessly.
And what does that
and
feel
often
like in our
powerfully.
body? When do we know we're in an expanded state?
You will feel it.
Yeah.
It can feel emotional. It can feel energetic.
As opposed to
You will
being closed, where I'm guessing you feel contracted, you feel weighed down.
absolutely. Density has that aspect to it of heaviness. And lightness has an expanding feeling to it. And so the vibration, a lot of people will describe it initially as feeling of chills. They'll feel chills running through their body. They'll even be able to identify, oh, I feel a movement of energy or chills running down my spine, or I felt an expansion in my brain. All of these are indications. And the more that we learn to trust these, it's sometimes the noticing of these patterns alone that invite the expansion. So we tend to be so busy in the Western world, even though I don't currently live in the Western world. I'm certainly from that sphere. But we tend to be so busy and our minds are so occupied that because of this, we're not attending to what often is already occurring within our deeper awareness. And when we give ourselves the gift of slowing down and paying attention and feeling more, it's really very much about feeling more. When we allow ourselves to feel more, we may discover that we have more going on than we have given ourselves credit for. And when we can tap into that, it begins to expand. I'm sure you've heard before that where we place our attention merely grows.
Right.
And so it has that same effect on us as
Yeah.
we begin our expansion in that way.
Are there certain sensory experiences that can elicit that feeling of expansion? Because I certainly feel it when I'm watching a really beautiful movie or a play. In fact, it recently happened to me, and I felt this kind of resonant energy in me, kind of like a tuning fork, like when it vibrates. Is that a sign that something in me has been touched and that I am in the right state to receive some kind of guidance or inspiration?
Yes. In brief, yes. But may I speak to you personally about the experience that you had?
Yeah, sure.
So what I'm seeing is the experience that you watched evoked an emotional memory in you that existed from another time, and you were connecting to that emotional memory, which was a very beautiful and powerful experience. And so in a sense, you connected to a part of yourself that felt very that related to the experience in a more profound way than perhaps you even realize. And so this is part of the weaving together of all of the disparate parts of ourselves that have existed throughout time. So absolutely, this reconnection just expands us, expands us, expands us, and expands us, and it enables you then in of feeling an emotion or an emotional memory that is so profound, even though you may not have the visual memory of it. You can't tangibly say, oh, I can remember a certain, but there's an emotional memory there that is awakened. That in itself is an invitation for you to be in a receptive state. Absolutely.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the upcoming launch of my new book titled The Nomadic Soul, a seeker's guide to finding a sense of self and belonging in the modern world, which highlights a profound yet often unexplored part of your identity that holds the key to everything from answering your biggest questions to finding deeper meaning and joy in everyday life. Visit thenomadicsoulbook.com to learn more, download a free chapter, or to buy a copy.
And what I would say to you is that we have the great gift of, the whole entertainment realm having expanded so magnificently over the course of the last century plus in our world. Music, film, all of these, even books, the way that and recent technologies have enabled authors to be able to rise in huge numbers. There's no barrier anymore to being a published author and to being able to share your works. And all of these various media forms, including the media form that you are engaged in, all of these various media forms give us an opportunity to feel through vicarious, is that the right word? Experiencing through others,
vicarious.
the experience of others, right? And so this is a great gift for us to be able to connect emotionally to what might not be immediately in our human experience, but is somewhere in the field of our greater experience that compels us. And the more that we allow these deep and powerful emotional experiences, I often refer to the greatest gift we can give ourselves on the awakening journey is the gift of being more emotionally present. And so if you can give yourself an abundance of emotional experiences, the opportunity to feel any emotion, feel.
Even
and I'm
the
not saying you go out
unpleasant ones?
Well, I was about to say, I'm not encouraging you to go out and look for opportunities to be angry. But if life orchestrates for you an encounter or an experience in which anger rises within you, honor it, because there is no naturally rising emotion that is to be ever denied. All emotions are pure and healthy. And now, many of the ways in which we are experiencing our human emotions are a result of distortions, because they are a result of unhealed wounds that we have been carrying over throughout this current lifetime or past lifetimes that we're not even aware of. So sometimes our emotions are distorted. They are informed by wounds we are carrying. And a result of those wounds is that we form beliefs and patterns, which are behaviors that then distort us. They limit us and restrict us and define us in an unhealthy way. And so I'm not referring to these distorted emotions, but emotions that rise purely. They are to be honored. And often some of these heavier emotions, the uncomfortable emotions, that when we do see that there is a pattern of these being triggered within us, it's simply an opportunity for us to go on a healing journey to resolve the wounds that we are carrying that cause us to feel diminished and therefore angry all the time, or sad all the time, or defeated all the time, whatever it might be. So yeah, emotions are a big one.
Yeah, I agree with you. What advice would you have for someone who's kind of going through a maelstrom of emotions? Like, for instance, if they are, in a very rough patch in their life, or they're going through a very major transition that feels very uncomfortable. What advice do you have for them if they want to stay balanced and really come from a place of tranquility and intentionality so that they really make the most of this particular phase of their life, no matter how difficult and challenging it is?
There's a beautiful saying that comes from, it's not even from the Bible, it could even be from Shakespeare, but it's "to thine own self be true." And I think this speaks volumes. The most important thing, first and foremost, is to just be true to whatever your experience is, and to not attempt to deny yourself, judge yourself, or shame yourself for having this experience that you are having, as painful as it might be. Obviously, sometimes the pain gets too loud, too overwhelming, too uncomfortable, too difficult to cope with. In situations like that, it would always help to seek the support of others around you who are wise, who are not judgmental, who are not going to seek to shut you down, but rather can provide you some comfort and perhaps even a bit of distraction from the suffering that you are experiencing. But all suffering that rises is rising for a reason. I often refer to life as divinely intelligent. Life is a consciousness. And life, as we experience it as humans, is constantly orchestrating for us the perfect experiences that are intended to propel us on our journey of awakening. And so even when we are enwrapped in the throes of struggle and pain and difficulties, as you described, there is within that a gift. But of course, we as a society haven't learned how to recognize what life is showing us or how to navigate through it. And so, first of all, the awareness that I just described is very helpful. So for people to understand that you are not being punished for something, that there is purpose to every experience that you are having. And ultimately, everything is intended to uplift you and free you to be brilliant, fully embodied, fully empowered, and connected to your divinity. So that awareness is, I would say, point one. Step number two is to just be true to yourself and to honor the emotions to the degree that it feels comfortable honoring the emotions. Step three, avoid any semblance of judgment, guilt, shame, or even blame. Don't blame outward. Don't blame yourself. These human experiences, these human constructs, they are not divine constructs in my mind. Excuse me for being so bold as to say that. But this idea of judgment is not a quality that is of the divine. That is a construct, that is a result of humanity's ignorance. And I don't mean that in a painful way. It's just a descriptive way. Humanity is ignorant. And so judgment has no place. And all of these qualities that I've referred to, judgment, guilt, shame, and blame, when we practice these things, they actually are like a glue that attach us to our broken state. They attach us to that diminished state. And what we're seeking to do is be liberated from it. And so it is to catch your thoughts, catch your beliefs, and dispel this idea that there is anything for you to blame yourself for. And I've had countless people say to me, well, what about this situation in which someone has intentionally wronged you, or they have caused harm and it has led to a destructive outcome? Are they not responsible? Well, let's leave the question of responsibility aside for a moment and say, what good does it truly do for us to hold on to that need to condemn and shame and judge an individual, or even for that individual to do it to themselves? Because ultimately, we are all seeds of the divine. We are all here on a journey through density, through contrast, through darkness, to come to fully appreciate our light and to embody that light in a way that has never been embodied before. We are not here to repeat something that has been done before. We are here to define our own arc, each of us, of self-discovery, of self-awakening. And we can only do that through our own stories. And so these are some of the foundations that can help. But someone who is genuinely in a state of struggle and challenge, I would say, take time. It's the simplest of meditations. Take time at the beginning of the day to learn to breathe gently. I am not a proponent of some of the more aggressive breathwork practices. I and the divine have always recommended very gentle, deep breathing practices, but with those practices to create a vision in your mind's eye of, and often what I use when I lead guided meditations is create a picture of a waterfall that descends from the highest echelons of heaven, that brings forth a crystalline golden white light, and that as it hits the ground at your feet, this powerfully comes in front of you as a mist of all of these minute crystals. And as you are breathing that in, you are drawing in that vibration of heavenly love into your being. And so these simple practices, and when they are practiced often, it becomes very easy to be able to tap into that and to feel that vibration of safety and love. Safety is a big one.
Yeah,
Celine.
it really
It is
is.
so important for people to feel safe. And
Safe
and
in what way? Emotionally, and
in
obviously,
all ways,
yeah,
in all ways, safe in your body, safe in your heart, safe in the
so
world,
true.
safe to show up, safe to speak your truth, safe to open your heart to receive as well. So many have been so painfully abused through the experiences of life that their hearts are closed, and rightly so, in a defense mechanism, a way of protecting themselves for the next possible attack that can occur, or offense that can occur, or invasion of their sovereignty that can occur. And in that place of being closed, they are even closed to the experience of love and healing and expansion. And so it's only through this kind of a self-practice where you begin to form a relationship of trust with your individual ability to connect to purity, to light, that then you can navigate your own opening, your own ability to feel safe and comforted within your own heart.
I feel calm just listening to you, Shams-Tabriz. I mean, you have such a beautiful, calming energy. And I want to touch on one last thing before I let you go. You talk about this concept of beingness and why it's really important to focus on our beingness before we actually do anything, before, as you say, as before doingness emerges. Can you please say more about that? And it would be great if you offer specific practices where we can nurture our sense of being before we embark on any endeavor.
What a beautiful question. This concept of beingness before doingness emerges because I often find myself in the company of individuals who will be asking, what's my purpose in life? And I can very easily give a response that annoys them. And that response is your purpose is to be free. Your purpose is to discover who you are. Your purpose is to be brilliant. Your purpose is to be fully embodied, your light as well as your humanity, not divorced anything that you have been throughout time, able to the saint as well as the sinner, able to embrace all of it because you have been all of it. But that answer often annoys people because what they want to know is, but what am I here to do? Who am I here to be? And these often are people who are already upon a spiritual journey. They have recognized that this is an evolving time, and they want to be a part of it. That call is arising from within them. They no longer are fitting into the old paradigm, no longer wanting to do the conventional thing that everyone else has been doing forever. And so to them, I often will say, don't seek too hard to find what you should do. Don't look for that next workshop to attend just to find yourself. I mean, you can do these things, of course, that can be fun and give you so many different experiences. But at the end of the day, what you are here to do in this world will arise out of who you are. It will arise naturally out of the experiences that you have had and the wisdom that you have gained from those experiences that you have had in life. There is no school, there is no certificate, there is no education that can teach you what only you have experienced. And to me, that is the greater gift that we all have to give to humanity. We give from what we deeply know. And deep knowledge is embedded in emotion. Deep knowledge is always emotional knowledge. And emotional knowledge can only happen when we have had experiences that enrich us with that emotion. And so to know ourselves enables us to discover or to choose. It's not even a discovery. We then, based on knowing ourselves, based on being who we are, who we truly, truly, truly are. And part of being who we are is uncovering who we are. And so it's from that beingness that we get to choose what we wish to do, but we're choosing from the beingness. Does that, first of all, before I go on to the next part of your question, does that resonate? Does it make sense?
Yes, it does. So what comes to mind is, can we trace our beingness to those peak experiences that we've had in life, those experiences that our emotions really, it had an impact on us? Can that give us some clues as to what our natural sense of being could be?
Yes, but that's half of it. The other half of it is our humanness. The spiritual, yes.
Yeah.
The idea of spiritual expansion for millennia has been about detachment. You detach from your identity, you detach from the physical. Many would even detach from their families and their communities. They change their names, they go to live in the mountains. You divorce yourself from all that you know of your physicalness, and you immerse yourself in simple, pure, beyond the physical beingness. This time is different. This time of humanity's evolution is about the animating of this Earth spacesuit and all of the humanity that comprises what we have witnessed and experienced throughout time, and integrating that humanity with that expanded spirituality, with that essential, the essential beyond the physical nature of who we are. When I spoke at the beginning of this conversation about that dream or that experience or that memory that I had as a child, it's that state that we are seeking to connect to, but without divorcing ourselves from our humanity, so that we become an embodied, awakened being, but enriched by the human experiences that we have had. That pure awakened state that exists even now is lacking the human experience. We've come into this earth realm throughout the journey of time to have the human experience, and now at this pivotal moment of humanity's history, to begin the process of integration, such that awaken to be embodied masters in the way that many of our great revered ones in times past have achieved. But this time represents the beginning of the wave in which humanity is going to start doing this en masse.
Can you give us an example of someone who was able to do that? Because I'm trying to ground this knowledge for people who are listening. I get it. I get it on a intellectual level, but I'm having difficulty like picturing it, what that actually looks like.
What it looks like is someone who would appear to many to be a magician, who has the ability to exist in human form, but transcend what we would perceive to be the physical laws. One who has access to wisdom, one who has access to a vibration that moves through them, that can impact others and the world itself. One who is just an embodiment of pure brilliance. And so if I were in this moment to cite one example, I would say who I refer to as Yeshua or Jesus Christ. Someone who was fully awakened, someone who knew himself to be one with his Father, with the source, who knew that he was not separate or different from anyone else that he encountered, who had the ability to perform miracles, who had the ability to, let's just say he had a command over matter, including the matter of his own flesh. And so we all have the capacity to be more than we perceive ourselves to be. In fact, if there is one constant message that is brought forth through me, it is an admonition, a strong bit of advice that is given to people who have the ears to hear. Seek to dissolve the boundaries of your perception so that more of that which is real can begin to be experienced by you. It is our perceptions that hold us back from experiencing our full potential. And so who we are is limitless. The capacity that we have, even this idea of our finiteness in human form, it's not real. It's only real to the degree that we believe in it. Does that mean that I'm prepared to climb to the top of some great building and jump off and say that I can defy the laws of physics? Well, no, because I can't do that today. But will I hold to the law that I can't do that? No. I free myself from all of those bounds and I invite the possibility And I invite that whatever awaits me for my next experience of expansion, whether inwardly or even in manifest form, I invite that.
Wow. Shams-Tabriz, I truly appreciate you taking the time to share your deep insights and wisdom with all of us and raising the consciousness of our community. Speaking to you has been truly a joy for me. And I have to say that before starting this conversation, I was a little bit tense because I encountered a lot of traffic on the way to the studio. But then after speaking to you, I feel so much more calm and relaxed. And so I thank you for that.
Celine, this has been really, really enjoyable for me. If there was one thought that I held before this, it was that I really hope that Celine is conversational and not just Q&A. And you were exactly that. This was so rewarding for me, so engaging. And I really thank you for the opportunity. It means a lot to me to be able to share in this way.
The pleasure is mine, Shams-Tabriz. And I know that you'd like to share some details about your services, particularly your wisdom sessions, as you call them. Could you please tell us more about that and let us know how people can get involved?
Yeah, so we do offer online wisdom sessions, and we do this once a month. It's a free offer that we put out there for people to participate in. And basically, what a wisdom session is, I will generally channel a message. And whatever the theme is that is established, it will be established ahead of time so that people will know this wisdom session is going to be on the topic of, it usually, if not always, is on the subject of healing. But it might be focusing on relationships, it might be focusing on any number of different things. But generally, it will begin with the sharing of a bit of wisdom that comes through me, followed by a Q&A. And so I do wisdom sessions in a variety of different formats, but online, we invite people to write in their questions ahead of time, and then we'll select a few and just bring guidance forward.
Wonderful. And do people sign up for that on your website, shams-tabriz.com?
Correct. /events. And but we'll have a link on the homepage as well. It's easy to
Okay,
find.
perfect. I'll make sure I add that in the show notes. And I also want to add that if you want to learn more about his events, consultations, or if you want to purchase his books, you can find all of that on his website. I'm going to repeat it again, shams-tabriz.com. The link will be in the description as usual.